Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Campbell Talk. And today we have with us a very, very special guest who's coming to us from a whole nother time zone. We have Dr. Michael. I keep putting the names back and forth. Dr. Michael Benjamin Robinson, right? All right, I did that. Yes. So, as you know, every week we have really great live conversations, conversation that matters to you, conversation that provides you with information. So, this way you can know how to access certain services. So, today we're going to be talking with Dr. Michael about HIV and mental health and how that connects to us as Black and Indigenous people of color, and just to make sure that we can connect with resources that are available in our community or across our community. So we're in the virtual age now, so we can access mental health services virtually, and that's going to be an important asset to us as Black and Indigenous people of color. So um, we're just going to go to our intro, and then we come back. We'll have Dr. Michael Benjamin Robinson on, and we're going to chat it up with him this evening. And as always, please invite, like, share, follow. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered on air. So thank you again, and we'll be chatting with you soon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being on the show today. Um, so tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name again is Michael L. Benjamin Robinson. I am a native of Jackson, Mississippi. So, by most people's standards, you would consider me a country boy. uh, Even though Jackson, Mississippi is the capital and the largest city in the state of Mississippi. But again, I definitely claim my country roots in that way. But I moved to New Orleans maybe about 13, 14 years ago. And so I definitely consider the Big Easy to be my second home here. Um, so I work here as a mental health therapist, uh, an advocate within public health, in social justice. I teach on the collegiate level. Um, and so I do a number of different things. So that's a few things about me, I
Oh,
guess.
so uh, so it is Pride Month, so happy Pride,
Happy.
and also big congratulations to you and your partner. You've been together now for 20 years,
Yes, thank you,
and,
thank you.
and doing it successfully, right?
Well, we do try. I mean, I don't know that we're trying to do anything special. Is just trying to live our lives, but we are very grateful that for anyone that is not able to live their life to the fullest, because as we know that everyone, as we look at Pride Month, everyone is not able to live their life with pride because of various different circumstances, because of policies, because of family, because of stigma and discrimination. So we are very happy to be able to kind of serve as a type of example of what things can be like for some people, and try to shed light on the discrimination and disparities that happen with individuals that want to have same-sex love and marriage. Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, my partner and I are celebrating 11 years
Oh, that's awesome.
together, and so we know the journey all too well.
Yeah, congratulations to you as well. As you know, within our community, If you've managed to be together for even 5 years, that starts to get eyebrows raised right there. Um, because we don't have as many examples of our love as we would like to have, because we have not been showcased in uh, popular media, and in reality type of media as well. So we're only just now starting to see examples of what that looks like, and so it will create a whole new generation of young people who will be able to understand that same-sex love can be loving and long lasting and functional and healthy and all those things. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. Now you say you're from Mississippi.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Do you know how I can get to Tuscaloosa? Is it?
Well, now Tuscaloosa is in Alabama, right?
Oh, is it? Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
We have a city called Tougaloo,
oh,
which is you're not quite the same though.
can you tell I was watching the Pink?
um, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
oh.
P Valley.
So P Valley, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So because it's set somewhere in the South here, in
yeah.
either Mississippi or Alabama. I hate to confess, I actually have not really watched the show. Um, I didn't really watch a lot of Pose either. And I know a lot of people are always surprised that I didn't watch Pose and P Valley and that sort of thing. And I have to tell you, one of the reasons why is, especially with Pose, the couple of episodes I watched, I loved them. I thought
Mhm.
they were absolutely great. But it took me back to a time, and it was really actually re-traumatizing for me. And I just, I knew, I mean, every episode seemed like it would make you cry. I teared up on those episodes, a couple of ones that I saw. I couldn't watch much more than that. It just took me too much to the time of when HIV was just so prevalent, and how it was a really big focal point in everyone's lives at that point in time. But yet it was such this thing that was taboo to almost talk about at the same time. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump all over the place, but yeah.
No, I absolutely, I've heard, I mean, I think a couple of times I bawled my eyes out after the episode ended, and I was like, oh my God. And so it's almost like if you've not experienced that, you can almost like imagine or even feel the struggle, feel the pain. And then it's like, what do you do with that after the show is over, right?
Yeah,
you,
yeah, exactly,
you
exactly.
what do you turn to, or how do you decompress after the show? And I felt like a lot of times we were just like
Yeah,
and so it was quite the experience. And I understand that it's not always like that for everyone.
yeah,
And so so we kind of like give way and salute to that as well.
yeah,
So what do you, today, by the way, guys, for those of you who are watching this, today is National HIV Testing Day. So please, 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 please go out and go get tested. Not
yeah,
go out, go get tested and know your HIV status. If it's the only thing you do today, just go get an HIV test and know your HIV status. Plenty of places are offering it. I think if you go to um, was it? If you just Google free HIV test, you should be able to. I know Walgreens is
yeah,
doing a lot of testing all over the place. They have folks inside Walgreens doing testing. So please go get a free HIV test. If you're here in Florida, you can go on to they have a Facebook page for this, but you can do Test Palm Beach Facebook page, or you can go to Know Your HIV Status Florida. You'll find plenty of places where you can get tested. But wherever you are in the country, just put in free HIV test near me, and you should be able to find one. Go get tested. All of this week. National HIV Testing Day is today, but National HIV Testing Week. And we're going to keep talking about testing and testing and testing because Black folks are only 13% of the US population, but more than 50% of the new cases of HIV and people living with HIV in this country.
yeah,
So I don't know. What do we do about that?
Ricardo, that's a great question. And you're absolutely right about that startling statistic. I mean, we don't make up, a lot of this country, like you said, 13%. But when we share, over half of the disease burden itself,
Hmm.
that is kind of eye opening, and something it definitely says that we need to be called to arms. One thing that each one of us can do is exactly what you just said. Go and get tested. Know your status. Here, I think National Testing Day makes it easy because it's a day set aside for it. It makes it kind of less, you know, stigmatizing because everyone is doing it. Like you said, there are various different pharmacies such as Walgreens. I'm sure many community-based organizations, health units and health departments are offering free testing and are happy to do that testing. And many tests nowadays do not involve any type of needle sticks at all. They can do oral swabs or
Hmm.
just as simple as a needle prick. And I tell you that those results will come back in minutes in many cases. And you'll know before you leave for sure. And so with that type of technology at our disposal, with these type of national movements around it, it just really makes it easier for you to just feel more comfortable to go and get tested and use today as a annual day of doing it. Many people do it already. They say, "Oh, well, today is the day. I'll just go every year and get tested at this time." So at least you kind of have this, you know, time frame in your mind that you can always say that I'll go get tested at this time. So I just say that's one thing that we can all do individually. And there's so many other things that we can do, but that's one thing that we can all personally do to make a difference. Yeah.
So, knowing that we are facing the burden of HIV in this country, how does that correlate to kind of like our mental well being?
Yeah. So there's so much to say about that because you would have to look at what HIV has done to us globally, what it has done to us in individual communities, what it has done to us on the family level, and what it does to us individually. Because it has affected us and on all those different levels and in different ways. And we have seen it when we look at um, globally, or when we look at it community based wise, we see it affect us within our policies. And some of those policies um, may even to this day still be kind of outdated and serve as a way to marginalize or even discriminate against individuals who may have HIV. And so that certainly has an effect on people's well-being, how
Hmm.
they think of themselves. If HIV is still um, a disease that allows for people to stigmatize and discriminate against, even within our policies, then how can that not affect that person's well being? How can that not affect the mental health of those of us who love individuals who may have HIV? So uh, there's many different levels in which this affects our well being and our mental health. But I think it would be we would be remiss to only think about how it eventually affects that person who might be HIV positive in their mental health. Of course it affects them. We know that that is going to have effect on their mental health and well-being, at least to some degree. And and so many people may know that without that goes without saying. But we should also be cognizant of how it affects all of us. even those of us who are not positive, because it affects us, like I said, on all these different levels, whether it's within, city government or state government and legislature, national, funding that comes through. Testing that is available or not available in particular areas or communities. All of these things make a difference. Can you imagine if you live in a small community where HIV is still very much a type of pariah, type of thing to have, or they make you a pariah for having HIV. Uh, what that must do to a person, and their self worth and their self being. You're in Florida. Florida has plenty of areas that are rural areas where people will have to drive miles,
Yeah.
uh, maybe hundreds of miles in some cases, to get the care that they need. Imagine what that must feel like.
We have in Palm Beach County here, we have our, I guess the furthest city out west is about 40 miles, about
Yeah.
42 miles away.
Hmm.
That's how big our county is.
Yeah.
And people, it's a small town. People will travel 40 miles just to see a provider
Yeah.
because they don't want anyone else to see them
Right.
going inside a building or talking to the provider or being seen as a patient there.
Yeah.
So that does play a lot with people's perceptions,
Yeah.
and also I know that's not good for someone's mental health.
Yeah. Sometimes people don't have transportation or reliable
Mhm.
transportation, and people might even make the choice of, because of the pressures of that, what you just mentioned, of how people will um, you know stigmatize you or discriminate against you. People might choose not to get care at all. That's not uncommon. And for anyone who's listening and maybe dealing with that type of issue where they're making that hard decision. Everyone has to make their own decision for their own health, but I would implore anyone that's going through that, or anyone who knows someone who's going through that, that I've loved and had to live with, or had to live with, the idea of people losing people who suffered in that way. And I feel so bad, because if they only knew what things were like today,
Mm.
if they had maybe just been brave enough to be strong enough to, yeah, someone might see you. But I think those friends of mine who are not with us right now, if they, if I had been brave enough, and I now, that's why I say what I say now, because there were times that I was so afraid to say certain things, because I was afraid that my friends would be mad with me, they would get angry with me, because I was telling them that they needed to get help, or they needed to get care, and they needed to get start taking their meds and what have you. And there were times that people did get angry with me, because sometimes I was brave enough to say something. But now I live with the idea that if I had done more, would certain people still be here? Because the advancements are so different now, and
Mhm.
people can live out and proud, even with HIV. And man, 15 years ago, even as little as 15 years ago, there are people who just maybe wouldn't have thought that they could have lived to see a day like that. And so I implore those people that may be still living in a time where they feel like that no one will care, no one will love you, that there isn't life on the in at the end of the tunnel, there's not light at the end of the tunnel, that there is. There's so much more to live for, and being worried about an individual or a community is still not worth your life. Your life is still so much more worth than that. I know me saying that doesn't make all the difference in the world for an individual. Um, but I've seen a lot of this, and I hope that it does help someone who might hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the type of conversations that we need to have as a community,
Yeah.
and say, like, we need to support each other. We need to support each other, and so this way we can survive. We're, what's the gospel song say? I need you to survive. I
Yeah.
love you. I
Yeah.
need you to survive.
Yeah.
Won't harm you with words from my mouth.
Yes. Yes.
So I think, in taking that and just using that and say, but we have people who are, sometimes it's not the external community that they're most afraid of. It's the dynamics within their families.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of folks, it's, I don't want my parents to know, I don't want my siblings to know, I don't want my cousins to know, or they're going to make these assumptions about me, or, and it's more than one, just kind of like coming out, right? Because you
Yeah.
come
Exactly.
out about the HIV, then you have to come out about your sexuality, then you have to come out about your drug of choice or your habits. And so that can put a lot of stress on people's, mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what would you, are there anything that you can suggest or recommend, or even just discuss, in how folks can kind of like, muscle up and kind of like be able to get over the hump? Of course, we want people to do what means what's going to be safe for them.
Right.
So, if it means that, you still have a place to live and you still have food on the table,
Yeah.
that should always, be a priority. Um, so it's tough.
Yeah. There's no easy answers to any of this, Ricardo, obviously, right? This is a tough situation in any case, right? But let me tell you, as a mental health therapist, and I meet with people for various different reasons, um, and I've done that over the years, whether it's been alcohol and drugs or HIV or marriage counseling or depression or what have you. I'll tell you the commonality for all of us, no matter who you are, what you're dealing with, the pathway to good mental health is knowing thyself. It is at least the start point. That you have to be understand who you are and be able to be comfortable in your own skin. That's the pathway, and everything else kind of just falls into place, you know kind of after that, because so many of us are dealing with a low self-worth, or you know low self-esteem, and these things can exacerbate depression, anxiety, and other areas of mental health that bother our mental health when it comes to HIV. We and you add something like HIV to it, obviously, you know, this really tends to weigh on us mentally, because now we're worried about our physical health and even our lifespan and what have you. And HIV is a very unique disease in the sense that it has a whole lot of social issues attached to it, which allows for us to demonize individuals who may have HIV, and therefore again exacerbate mental illness in some cases. People with HIV are more likely. By many statistics, or many studies will show that people with HIV are more likely to experience depression and anxiety. And these are because of the many things that we've just talked about. Ricardo, if you don't mind, I would like to share, a little bit about, an individual who he's deceased now. His name is Kenneth Van Vliet. And I say his name uh, to invoke his spirit, and invoke the fact that he's an individual uh, who is not forgotten by me, uh, and made a huge difference in who I am and why I do what I do. When I was in high school, I had a boyfriend and I had a girlfriend, and it was a secret. My girlfriend didn't know I had a boyfriend, and little did I know, I was engaged in sexual activity at a young age. Shouldn't have been, but I was. And when I was having sex with my boyfriend, never used a condom, not one time. Never used a condom. I used a condom with my girlfriend, but not with my boyfriend. Weird, right? But that was the case. Um, well, it wasn't weird in the sense that if you think about teenagers are sometimes more concerned about getting pregnant than they are getting sexually transmitted diseases. I think that still holds true today in some cases, right?
Yeah.
So, but little did I know, my boyfriend, even though we were only kids at the time, he was already HIV positive. Um, he was infected, or he had, and I apologize for using the word infected. I shouldn't use that word. Um, but he, acquired HIV because of he was sexually molested by another adult who had HIV, or you really could say raped, really.
Hmm.
Um, and so, because of this, he was displaced. His mother basically, she was an addict, and she um, had given him up for adoption when he was born, and his grandparents adopted him. So he grew up thinking that his grandparents were his actual parents. They never really told him the truth until he got a little older. And his mother, he thought he thought it was his aunt. His brother, he thought or his uncles, what he thought was his brothers, right? And one of his brothers ended up raising him. He was very mean to him, very, very cruel to him. In fact, his brother was gay, and he had a lover, his brother did. And that lover was the one who, you know, raped him and basically gave him HIV. And so his grandparents, the ones who raised him, he thought it was his parents, they died when he was 7 years old in a house fire. These were the only people he ever thought ever really loved him and cared for him. So when I met him in around about eighth or ninth grade and showed him some measure of caring, he just latched on to it in a way that I was afraid of in a lot of ways and ran from in a lot of ways, even though we managed to, kind of date or what have you, excuse me, for a number of years. And I tell this story about this young man because there's a lot of pain and suffering, mental health issues, drugs and alcohol, um, abuse that happened with this young man. And it's sad. He died not even at, maybe he didn't even reach 23. I think he was 22 when he died. He called me a few days before Christmas. I was in college by the time, and we were no longer together. We had broken up for couple of years or so and had went on to college. But he had called me. He was actually in the hospital. He was in his hospital bed and called me to tell me that he loved me and that he always appreciated me and what have you. And I tell this story about him because, again, there's nobody else that's going to remember him. And I think it's important that he is remembered because his story is important. His story represents a lot of individuals um, that suffer not just from the trauma that happens within families, mental illness, drug and alcohol abuse, sexual abuse, mental, mental and verbal and emotional abuse, which he also suffered as well. Um, and finally, having to suffer from having HIV because obviously the medications weren't what they are now. This was easily more than 20 something years ago that I'm talking about. But I'm saddened, Ricardo, when only last Christmas I went to um, a benefit. I was invited by a dear friend, Ariana Evans, who had a young friend of hers. The young man was, I think, was 23, something like that. It was a benefit show because he had died of HIV or AIDS, rather, complications. And so I'm reminded that even to this day, even with all the advancements we have, they have PrEP that you can take a pill every day that keeps you from getting HIV now.
Mhm.
Something that maybe we couldn't even imagine, you know, 30 years ago.
Right.
And now we have these type of advancements, but unfortunately we still have young people who are still getting, acquiring HIV every day and not feeling that they are worth enough to fight for.
Mm.
That means that we, those that love those individuals, we need to do more to let them know that they are worthy, that their lives are worthy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So
Wow.
thank you for allowing me to share his
No.
story.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for evoking his name.
Yeah.
That was a real powerful story. It reminded me of a similar story of a client that I had a couple of years ago. Of a young man from, I think, Texas. I want to say Texas, um, who whose mother uh, pimped him out because she needed money for drugs,
Yeah.
and the person who sexually assaulted him over and over was actually HIV positive and gave him HIV. He didn't even know.
Yeah.
And he had to hitchhike all the way to like New York City. I mean, it's just super tough. And I mean, that's only just a small. That's only just one person's story,
Yeah.
but there are so many other stories out there of men, women, boys, girls who are trafficked and sexually assaulted and kidnapped and raped and beaten and all sorts of things happening to them, and they can't, and yet still, even with people being aware of those stories, some of them still go out and still make the same choices or make the same decisions that put them in those predicaments, even after hearing stories like that. um it's wow. So we have to like decompress.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I know it's heavy stuff. I had to live through too many of those type of experiences. That one was one of my earliest experiences, one of the first, and unfortunately, it just was not the last.
Mhm.
To this day, I'm still losing friends to um, this disease, and maybe needlessly in some cases. But much of that points to some of this discussion that we're having about the social aspects of HIV. Yes, we have the technology, the medications, the care that is available for people to live long and healthy lives. Uh, Even so much to the point that if people um, stay healthy, they are not even able to pass it on to someone else.
Mhm.
So we even have a status of
You equals you.
yeah, U equals U, which is your undetectable viral load. You don't even have enough virus to transmit um, to another person. So again, these things are great, but it is the social aspects of HIV, the mental health, our well being that kind of keeps us from being able to realize some of uh, the advancements. But I have to also say policy as well. We have to do more within changing policy around HIV. Whether it's dealing with access to care, or access to life-saving medications. Uh, how they are researched, the dollars that go into research and accessibility. All of these things make a difference in being able to help people stay well, not just physically but mentally as well. The physical goes along with the mental, for
Yeah.
sure. We cannot deny that. I've seen it many times before that a person who has a positive outlook on things tends to do better with their health in general. I've literally seen people, uh, you know, uh, do better health wise because of their attitude alone. It's a placebo effect, you know.
Yeah, especially when they have support from like family members and they have
Yes,
support from their communities, they
yes,
tend to do so much better.
yes,
And so, that's kind of like one of part of the reason why Campbell Health Solutions got started is that we wanted to create a space where we work with individuals who are newly diagnosed to to find support within their families without feeling without being stigmatized and without being discriminated against because families do that.
yeah,
And so we wanted to create a space where we can provide information to people to help them to understand like no, you're not going to get HIV from hugging, kissing,
yeah,
sharing the same plates,
right,
using the same washer and dryer,
yeah,
even the same toilet seat. And no, you don't have to bleach down the shower
right,
every time your family member takes a shower. That's not how you get HIV. And it's just kind of like it. Sometimes it's tough, and sometimes it might seem so simple, and sometimes we might look at some of those things and say, I can't believe they're doing that. And,
yeah,
like you kind of like laugh at it, but it does take a toll on the individual who
of
is
course,
experiencing that.
of course.
So what are some things if you have and maybe just generally speaking, um, if there's someone in your home, or you have a friend or a neighbor or someone on your block, down the street, whatever, if what are some signs that we can look for or can kind of like say this, know of that might say this person is experiencing some sort of like um having like a mental health experience.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, and this looks different in different people, right? You know, we oftentimes wonder why a person might be so angry, for example. We've heard the expression angry black man, angry black woman.
Mhm.
And I don't think that we think long and hard enough about, kind of where that kind of comes from or where that originates. Now, obviously, we want to take that out of the context of race, because there's a whole another conversation that deals that we should have about when it comes to that. But just dealing with, how it is seen within, within our community, um, young men who might even exhibit something that uh, ex- we might refer to as being angry, right? Um, and I can identify with that, and I think that is really what we're looking at is trauma in a lot of ways. People are trying to survive, and this is the best way that they know to survive sometimes. So we have to be careful about that. Now, it's easy for us to look at someone who seems withdrawn. That might be an easy sign to say, oh, well, this person is suffering from some mental health issues or what have you, because they're sad, they're all depressed by themselves, they don't want to socialize, and these are things that could indicate some type of, mental health distress or what have you. But we don't want to forget that, you know, um, a child who might be vandalizing property might very well be going through a lot of mental health issues that they really are in some way looking for help and asking for help. And we just have to understand that that's what it looks like sometimes. And I say this to a lot of my clients, sometimes anger is one of the easiest emotions for us to come to,
Yeah.
because sometimes when we're afraid, it looks like anger.
Mm.
Sometimes when we're sad, it looks like anger. So we have to be careful that even though, for us, when we seems like it's sad, sometimes it might look like anger for someone else, even though what they're experiencing is a lot of sadness, a lot of grief. And that's one of the areas in which they're channeling some of that energy. So it could be something as simple as that. When we look at our kids who we say are acting out, Sometimes we need to take a closer look and realize that they maybe just need someone to listen to them on what's going on in their worlds, in their lives, and give them the validation that they need. Give them help them develop the self worth that they may need. Um, um, I wonder if there's a way, because I'm afraid my power is about to go out in just a second. If I can just grab a cord or something like that, real quick.
Okay. All right, folks, we are here. We're talking to Dr. Michael Benjamin Robinson with the Bach group, and in a little bit, we'll have him talk about Bach. And so today, while he's taking a quick break,
So
um,
sorry about that. I'm
no
back.
worries. Today is National HIV Testing Day. So we want you to go out and get yourself an HIV test. If you are interested in knowing your HIV status, getting an HIV test, wanting to know where or how, definitely you can reach us at 208-6595. The number is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So please, please, please reach out to us. Or you can just Google free HIV testing. Walk into any Walgreens or most of the Walgreens, and they have testing available. There might be a mobile van outside, or they might have someone on the inside of the store doing mobile testing. So definitely do that. And absolutely, feel free to reach out to us if you have any particular questions. If you want to know how the test works, if you want to know where it's available, all of the testing should be free. There is no cost to getting tested for HIV. I don't know in other states. I know in the state of Florida it's free. Also, we have the at-home test kits. So if you would like an at-home test kit, definitely you can call us on the number scrolling across the bottom of the screen. We'll arrange for you to either pick it up or get it to you or ship it to you or whatever the case is. So if you can just call us and we'll talk about your what you need for you to be safe, know what your options are, get tested, know your status. That's the best way you can take care of yourself. That's part of self care, and that's part of how you take care of yourself and you take care of your partners as well, and ultimately your family members and your community. Um, so, Michael is back.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Those things, we do have to maybe be okay with being receptive of help and
Mhm,
being okay with reaching out with help. Um, within the LGBT community, people who are not in the LGBT community oftentimes are very nervous about how to address or ask questions of people. Like, for example, people are very concerned about how to address a transgender person. Did they misgender them and what have you? Uh, People find that same type of nervousness sometimes when dealing with people with HIV. So, when they know. Again, sometimes it's very extreme where they don't want them to sit on the same couch or use the same utensils and this type of thing like that. But what I have found is that whatever people are struggling with, those people are oftentimes more understanding about this than you might realize. If you will take the time to just try to understand where they're coming from, take the time to listen, take the time to be compassionate. Um, yeah, we would do so much for people who are struggling with this by just being okay with not getting it perfect, you know? Being okay with saying, I'm sorry, or I'm trying to learn, and really be authentic about wanting to learn. And I think that that means so much for people who are LGBT, or people who are HIV positive, or people who might be struggling with a type of mental illness, is that that people will take the time to show compassion and love and concern for them. And that just goes so far but for towards a person being able to do something for themselves as well. So I think that's one thing. Those are things that we can do for our community members, for our loved ones. What one might need to do for themselves is being able to understand how to surround themselves with the type of energy that is good for them, that's healthy for them. Now, this is difficult sometimes because, especially within Black communities, we are that's your mother, that's your brother, regardless of what they've done to you, right? You're
Right.
supposed to always be there for your family, and I would be the last one to tell you that you should not be there for your family. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that if there are individuals in your life, and even if those include family members, that are unhealthy for you, then it is your responsibility to do something about that. It's not their responsibility to change to make you feel more comfortable. That's not the way to happiness for anyone. You are your own happiness. Other people don't make you happy. You have to make you happy. And sometimes that does mean making hard decisions about who you need to allow in your space around you.
Mm,
And that might include mom, if mom is unhealthy for you in some way or fashion. And that's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to come to grips with or to even deal with or try to execute. But it is a part of being our self care that we have to be responsible of taking care of ourselves. At the end of the day, whether it doesn't matter who we are, where we come from. It is our responsibility for our own health and mental health and well being. We hope and pray that there are friends and family who are around us that can support us and give us that little help that we need sometimes. But like many things in life, there are things that we have to do by ourselves.
facts.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about the Bach group.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. The BOC group stands for the uh, Behavior and Community Health Group. My husband founded this organization in 2015. It is a public health firm in which we use our knowledge and skills and connections to help organizations, individuals, and communities uh, uh, solve their own public health dilemmas. So by providing capacity building trainings, uh, workshops, educational informations, those type of activities and strategizing, planning, development towards being able to um, deal with various different public health disparities, whether they be HIV or violence or tobacco or drugs and alcohol, whatever type of public health issue we might be addressing. We look at the statistical data to determine what are the best strategies, what are the best evidence-based strategies towards mitigating some of those disparities that we see. So that includes HIV, but many other public health concerns that we have as well, including mental health issues as well. So we do a lot of trainings on, traumas, whether they be community or individual. We do training on diversity and inclusion, um, just a myriad of other various health topics. But we also try to provide solutions as well. So we look at what types of, again, evidence based theories and trainings and workshops and toolkits are out there that we can use to help further the work that we're doing. So that's, a lot of what the BOC group does. Our sister organization, which is the organization I've started, BOC Therapeutic Counseling Services, which is where we provide mental health services to individuals and families. as well. And then finally, we do have a nonprofit organization that a lot of people don't know about as much, called Crops. And we are about to start providing programs and services through there in a utilizing nonprofit dollars, and therefore being able to maybe provide free and low cost services to individuals and community members.
That's man, you guys are busy. I
Yeah.
thought I was busy, but wow. Okay. And someone did ask for Dr. Earl
Yeah.
earlier. So yeah, he could not make it onto the show today because he had a work emergency to attend to.
Yeah. And he
Um,
apologizes for that. And hopefully, maybe you can get him back here, because um, I know he's my husband, but he's a brilliant man. He's done a lot of great work himself.
mhm,
He was over our state's COVID task force for a time, and actually came up with our state health plan,
yeah,
which is one of few in the country. And so very proud of the work that he's done in those areas, and very conscientious about making sure that he is working for black and brown people, especially. He works for all people, obviously, but is always very conscientious about black and brown people, and wanting us to stay healthy and even advance and thrive. So
yeah. And I met him when we actually took classes together at
yeah,
Notre University. So
yeah.
um, he was at the tail end of his program, and I was at the beginning of my program. So our paths have crossed and have remained in contact all these years. So yeah,
Yeah, I know, and he's again, he speaks fondly of those times, and as much as one can do about a doctoral program, because there's a lot of trials and tribulations that it takes you through as well.
I
Um,
know.
but certainly, he learned a lot during that time, and is putting a lot of that to good use. And again, so very glad that you had, you know,
Yeah,
uh, was. Had the forethought to invite us, and we feel very honored and privileged to be a part of your journey in doing this. And so thank you for all the work that you're doing. This is great. You don't have to do this, and so the fact that you're doing it when you don't have to do it, and then it's doing something to help someone else, that says so much about who you are, and what you feel like your purpose is. So again, thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
thank you. I ain't giving like all teary eyed and stuff.
Uh, well,
But
I'm
you,
good at that. I'm like the Oprah of
you,
therapy.
you get the tear. No, I no. It's yeah. We it's just it's important that we create space like you mentioned earlier for Black and brown people and for Black and Indigenous people of color.
Yeah,
It's important that we're part of the conversation, because we can't get to a solution. There can't be a solution without us. If we're excluded, then we're not part of that, and then we keep going in circles until we come back and say, oh wait, we're leaving these group of people out, so we have to include them. And also just making sure that we're doing it in an equitable way,
yeah,
because it's important that we do look at that, not just throw resources at people and say, okay, fine, here, this is what you need, or here, just take this. It's just saying, okay, you may actually need to talk to somebody. You
hmm
may just
hmm
need the number just in case you need to talk to somebody. And you can just go search the website. So it all depends on, people access different information different ways.
yeah,
And so we're trying to bring a variety of themes and a variety of individuals on, because we understand how important that is, and we know how it is because we already have a stigma around mental health in our community,
yeah,
and so we have to challenge a lot of that when we talk about, and I've been to therapy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so I encourage people. I say, listen, you should all, everybody who's
everybody.
hear this, everybody who's listening should go to, at least go to 3 sessions of therapy.
Yeah.
Three, at least
I
three.
don't I don't think it. See, we have to change the way we think about that. None of us think anything's wrong about going to the doctor, even when there's nothing wrong. Just to kind of get a checkup. We
Mhm,
don't think that there's anything wrong with that, even though some of us don't necessarily do it. We don't think there's anything wrong with it. The idea that we go to a mental health therapist, it immediately invokes this idea that something must be wrong. It doesn't have to be anything wrong for you to see a therapist. Sometimes it would just be helpful to kind of, you know, uh, to kind of release some of that, some of the things that are just pent up or that we maybe don't have anyone else to talk to. And a therapist is just a person that you can just kind of bounce off of. I think I was looking for the word sounding board, just kind of have a sounding board, so to speak. So you don't necessarily have to have an issue, so to speak, to have it there. And I agree. All of us should be able to have someone that we can talk to. So studies show that most of us will experience some level of depression at some point in our lives. So, just to be able to have a therapist might be a good idea to have in your Rolodex. Um, so yeah, I highly encourage that, and what I also want to say that I'm highly encouraged as a Black mental health therapist in New Orleans. I see more and more people coming to therapy, Black folks coming to therapy all the time, who are new people. They call every day saying, "Oh, I've never been in therapy before, but." My cousin, my friend, or the TV, someone told me maybe I should try this, or I've been thinking that I needed to try this. I've been dealing with some issues, or I haven't really dealt with some issues that from my parents or my past or my last marriage or what have you, and maybe talking to someone would maybe help me settle, shuffle through some of that stuff. So yeah, I highly encourage those type of things because it's helpful to all of us to do that. So yeah, reach out.
Yeah, what, we're currently building out our resource page right now. So we're definitely going to be putting your information on that resource page, because we offer something that's called chit chat.
Okay.
And so it's more of like I need to talk to somebody right now for like 15 minutes just to get this off my chest type situation. Or like if I don't talk to someone, I'm gonna bust. And so that's kind of like we call it the triage.
Okay.
We're triaging people.
Hmm.
And then we're looking for more sustainable, therapeutic resources that that people can be referred to, that people can have access to. And so we're definitely going to have you in our resource page, that folks
Yeah.
can access that information every time they go to our site. So we're currently building out some of that right now. But yeah, so you'll probably get some Florida folks like virtually, just
and
saying,
and that's quite all right. I actually have seen some folks virtually through Florida. You mentioned virtual, and you're right that that's a big part of how we do things. COVID forced us. If we
"Mhm,
weren't ready to be in a virtual world, COVID kind of forced many of us into a virtual world that maybe we weren't ready for. But there were some positive consequences with this. And so now that things are expected to be more virtual, there's kind of a standard that it's expected for us to do that. And within healthcare. So I have seen so many more clients that maybe I wouldn't have seen. From either smaller parts of the state where there are more rural areas where I'm able to provide therapy for individuals that I wouldn't have been able to provide therapy for before, or they would have had to travel great distances or what have you. So, the virtual aspect, our technology, we want to make sure that we are utilizing it to its full extent, whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health, or for HIV, or various other health issues. But our technology is a way that we are also finding ways of bridging these gaps and getting people the help that they need. So many mental health therapists are using telehealth as a way of doing it. So if you don't even want to leave out of your home and you just want to stay in your jammies and get up on your couch and talk to a therapist, many of us are willing to do that. So, that makes it even less excuses for us to not, get the help that we need.
and super convenient. So now
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about getting dressed. You don't have to do your hair.
Yeah.
You don't have to go outside. You can just like roll over and just,
hmm
get your coffee, sit in the window.
And I have many clients that do just that, and it works well.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Okay. Well, I mean, we're approaching the end of our show right now. And so we want to thank you again for being on the show today. And I'm sure we'll have you back to talk about some more mental health stuff and talk about some more of community stuff because every day there are so many different levels to mental health, so many
yeah.
different traumas that we can talk about. um, so it was a pleasure having you on. And this conversation was just absolutely amazing. You've provided so many resources and so many examples that I think our community will be able to benefit from that. And so, again, oh, I have your website up. I mean, your web address up on here,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
scrolling across the screen.
Thebotgroup.org. Yes.
Yes.
Um,
I'm gonna put that in the chat just in case someone is catching this later on and wants to just click on it and go. So if you can just tell us your phone number, so this way if somebody wants to call.
sure. You can reach us at 504-677-8854. And I believe we have a toll free number, 1-844-908-2224. And
Say that one,
obviously,
844.
844-908-2224. The last four digits spell out Bach, BACH.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just posted that in the chat, so people will definitely have the website, the local number, and the toll free number. Absolutely. Guys, let me tell you something. Mental health is serious, and your mental health is important.
Yes.
Your self care is important. So, if you are a person living with HIV and you're feeling stressed, you're feeling like you can't breathe, like you just need to talk to someone, absolutely check them out at thebotgroup.org or call the number at 504-677-8850 or the toll-free number, y'all, at 844-908-2224.
Yeah, just one correction. That's 504-677-8854.
8854. Okay, I
Yeah.
gotta do that. All right, so I'll make an edit of that. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Just please go and check them out. Um, Talk to someone. If you are a caretaker of someone who's living with HIV, it's important that you also have resources available to you as well. Just so this way you can take care of yourself. Um, oftentimes we know parents, caretakers. I'm changing that right now. So oftentimes parents, caretakers tend to put themselves last, and they take care of everybody else except themselves.
hmm
So we want to make sure, correct? 8854.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll delete this one here because we want to make sure that you are taken care of, that your mental health matters, your self-care matters.
Yes.
And so if you are a family member of a person who is living with HIV, please do everything if everything that you can to provide support to that person living with HIV, because it will help them to do better. It'll help them to stay healthier, to be more adherent, to see their doctors, to take their meds. I mean, it's overall wellness. It'll help them to live a longer and healthier life. So everything helps. Again, thank you for being on the show. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you. And we look forward to having you on again in the near future. And thank you for the work that you do. We really need more of you.
Yeah.
Literally need more of you. So, um, if you guys have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll definitely connect you and make sure that you're connected to Michael. And you can reach him at the number that's posted on the screen, actually. So, but please reach out, stay in touch, like, share. If you know someone who is experiencing depression or feeling or been isolating themselves or whatever, please reach out. Just chat with them, take them for a walk, take them for ice cream, um, whatever it is, just to help them to kind of like get by. Just get them out the house, get them thinking because we need each other, we have to support each other. Um, it takes a village,
Yeah.
not just to raise a child.
Yeah.
It takes a village. So thank you again.
Thank
Uh,
you so much, Mr. Jackson. I appreciate it.
awesome. And guys, stay tuned. Please like, share, and do all you do. We really appreciate you. Thank you for watching.